To redeem Ethan, Olivia and Leo worked themselves to the bone. Leo was scalded to death by steam. His journal read, "I'm not going to top universities anymore. I need to steam an extra batch of specialty dumplings to bring Dad home sooner." Olivia took the compensation money to free him, but Ethan threw the money at Stella, then sneered, demanding an additional $2 million. At that moment, Olivia's heart turned colder than death. Olivia staggered out of the underground casino, clutching Leo's disfigured employee ID badge. The cold wind made it impossible for Olivia to open her eyes. By the time she came to her senses, she was standing in front of the gourmet chocolate shop. Inside the glass display case, rows of exquisite chocolates shimmered invitingly under the lights. For 18 years, every time Leo passed by this shop, he would secretly swallow, saying, "Mom, once we get Dad back, let's come here together and buy a piece of chocolate to celebrate." Each time, Olivia would look at her thoughtful son with a pang of heartache. Suddenly, the shop assistant pulled open the door. "Mum, I'm terribly sorry." She pointed to the reserved sign at the entrance. "Mr. Ethan will be bringing his wife and son here to shop shortly. Please come back another day." "Which Mr. Ethan?" Olivia's voice trembled uncontrollably. "Mr. Ethan?" The assistant's eyes lit up. "He's famous for how much he loves his wife and son. He practically rents out the whole shop 3 or 4 times a week. His son, Jay, loves our chocolate the most." Olivia staggered back to steps, her pale face reflected in the shop window. The assistant's words were like a blunt knife, tearing open Olivia's chest. Jay, that was clearly his adoptive sister, Stella's son. Memories suddenly surged forth, tearing at Olivia's mind. The screams from the steaming facility that day still echoed in her ears. The moment the high-pressure steam pipe burst, Leo curled up like a shrimp thrown into boiling water. His skin quickly blistered in the steam, then popped with a sickening sound. Olivia watched helplessly as his fingernails peeled off one by one until he was barely recognizable. His charred lips still moved. "Mom, get Dad back, reunite." When he finally collapsed, he was curled up like a fetus in the womb, and in his hand, he still clutched the overtime slip for triple pay. "Mum, you look very pale?" The assistant worriedly steadied a swaying Olivia. How ironic it was. While was turning into a charred corpse in the steaming facility, the father he longed to redeem was about to spend the money Leo had paid with his life on chocolate for someone else's child. "Are you having low blood sugar? Would you like to try a sample?" The assistant offered a sample. "This is our best seller, and Mr. Ethan's son's favorite, sea salt caramel." Olivia mechanically took it, but the moment she bit into it, she gagged violently. It was too bitter. So this was the throat-burning bitterness of the chocolate Leo had always dreamed of. Olivia numbly walked to the street corner, where she happened to see Ethan, with his arm around Stella and her son Jay, walking in the distance. They looked exactly like a real family of 3. A wave of intense nausea suddenly swept over her, her throat burned, and she finally vomited a puddle of blood that tasted like rust. 8 years. Olivia and Leo had worked tirelessly for 8 years to get Ethan back, without a single day of rest. Everyone who saw them felt pity, yet Ethan, to care for Stella and her son, hadn't returned once to see Olivia and Leo in all those 8 years. Olivia wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth with the back of her hand, her vision darkening in waves. Just then, her cell phone rang. It was the call he only made when he needed money. "Olivia," his sobbing voice came from the other end of the line. "The people at the underground casino tricked me into signing a loan agreement, and now I owe another $2 million. I'm so useless. I might as well just die, to spare you and Leo the burden." Hearing these words, Olivia's heart was torn to shreds. Leo was dead, yet Ethan was still thinking of ways to exploit them. "Are you all right?" Hearing silence, his tone suddenly became cautious. Olivia stared intently at Ethan, who was wiping Jay's mouth in the distance. The tenderness on his face was a stark contrast to the faint sobbing on the phone. "Fine," Olivia heard her own hollow reply. There was a noticeable pause on the other end. He probably hadn't expected Olivia not to babble incoherently as usual, or cry and promise to gather the money, or beg him to stay alive. A few seconds of silence passed, and Ethan sensed Olivia's unusual demeanor. He immediately switched to that gentle tone again. "Olivia, I promise I'll work hard at the underground casino, behave myself, and try to get some of the repayment reduced, so you and Leo won't have to struggle so much." His voice deliberately softened, tinged with a fawning eagerness. "I'll also ask the boss if I can take a day to come back and see you and Leo, all right?" Listening to this familiar rhetoric, Every word pierced Olivia's heart like a needle. How many times? It was always these same phrases whenever he needed money, and Olivia had foolishly believed him for 8 years. Her finger hovered above the hang-up button. She couldn't even bother with a perfunctory mm. She simply closed her aching eyes the moment the call disconnected. Hot tears finally burst forth. Ethan, Olivia's tears had finally run dry. This gamble, with Olivia's and Leo's lives as the stakes, Olivia would no longer play. It was late. Olivia walked incessantly, like a wandering spirit, until she reached Leo's favorite park. They used to hide here after sweeping the streets at 4 in the morning, sharing a cold steamed bun. Leo would push more than half of it toward Olivia, his small face smudged with dirt, a smile playing on his lips. Mom, eat more so you can earn more money and get Dad back. Now, only Olivia remained alive. Her poor son, burned by the high-temperature steam, hadn't even left any ashes behind. Olivia knelt on the damp earth, digging her fingers into the soil to carve out a shallow pit. Leo's employee ID badge was already twisted and misshapen. As placed it in the pit, her hands trembled so much she could barely hold it. Tears splattered onto the badge. She tried to wipe them away with the back of her hand, but only smeared it further. Olivia grabbed a handful of earth and covered it, a guttural sob escaping her throat. Leo, Mom is so sorry. Olivia lay beside Leo's symbolic grave, pressing her face against the freshly turned soil. She stayed there, sleeping beside her son for the entire night. The next morning, Olivia's cell phone vibrated frantically in her pocket. Ethan's 37 missed calls were like 37 knives plunged into the lock screen. The latest text message read, "Answer. Do you know how worried I am?" Olivia simply swiped away the notification. Then she walked straight to all 8 of her working part-time jobs, resigning from each one. Each boss looked at Olivia with hesitation, wanting to speak but holding back. Ms. Susan, from the breakfast shop, insisted on giving Olivia a bottle of milk then. With red eyes and a choked voice, she said, "Olivia, these past 8 years, you came to work even when you fell during a hailstorm and bled from your knees. You fainted in front of the stove during the hottest days of summer and still refused to rest. You deserve a break, child." Olivia looked at her gratefully but said nothing more. The last place was the city's most upscale restaurant. As she pushed the door open, in the VIP section by the window, Ethan was pouring red wine for Stella. Stella, sharp-eyed, spotted Olivia and immediately raised her hand. Waving warmly, "Olivia, what are you doing here?" Olivia pushed the door open, her gaze fixed on Ethan's face. "Aren't you supposed to be locked up in the underground casino?" Ethan's knife and fork clattered onto his plate then, as if remembering something, he shouted at Olivia, indignantly, "How dare you ask me that? Where were you last night? Why weren't you home all night? Do you know how much effort I put in? How much I pleaded with the underground casino owner, just for him to agree to let me come back and stay one night with you and Leo?" Olivia ignored him, her gaze falling instead on the bottle of red wine. The 18888 yuan price tag stung her eyes. That amount was enough for Olivia and Leo to work for 3 months in the steaming facility at the specialty food processing plant. "Oh brother, let's not talk about sad things, Olivia. Please sit down," Stella said, feigning warmth as she pulled Olivia's wrist. During the meal, Stella incessantly boasted about her boyfriend's thoughtfulness, her gaze occasionally flitting to Ethan, her eyes betraying that he was indeed the boyfriend. "Olivia, look. He just gave me this handbag yesterday, and today he says he's taking me to the Caribbean." She looked at Olivia boastfully. "Olivia, don't you think my boyfriend spoils me too much?" Ethan's gaze toward Olivia remained angry. Olivia only noticed the 200,000 yuan watch still on his wrist. It further confirmed how ludicrous Olivia's and Leo's past 8 years had been. "Olivia, why aren't you eating?" Stella pushed a piece of foie gras toward Olivia. "This is their signature dish." Olivia looked at the exorbitantly priced foie gras. She remembered when Leo was 10, he secretly brought home half a steak left by a customer at a fast food restaurant, excitedly saying, "Mom, we're having meat today." Olivia suppressed her tears and stood up, oblivious to the napkin that had fallen to the floor. "I'm full, please enjoy your meal." As turned, her peripheral vision caught Ethan's indignant expression. "Olivia, 8 years. Do you really not want to see me at all?" Olivia suppressed the trembling in her shoulders, not wanting them to see her cry. "You don't know how much I've missed you and Leo all this time." This familiar tone, which had once made Olivia and Leo willing to go through hell and high water for him, now sounded incredibly ironic. If he truly missed Olivia and Leo, Would he have deceived them for 8 years? Would he have made Olivia and Leo live in hell? It seemed that when people reached the peak of their pain, they truly could laugh. Olivia spoke numbly. Haven't you paid off your debts yet? You should go back to the underground casino soon. Ethan froze at Olivia's hoarse voice, watching her resolute figure walk away. His heart suddenly began to pound with an inexplicable unease. Back home, Olivia mechanically pulled open the closet and began to pack Leo's meager belongings. Leo's school uniform still hung neatly, a corner of his report card peeking out of the pocket. It was the grade-leading report card he had planned to show Ethan. Olivia cried as she threw these items one by one into the fire pit. Leo's school uniform gradually curled in the flames. The burning mementos smoke stung her hands, raising blisters, but Olivia felt no pain at all. Suddenly, Ethan's voice, accompanied by the sound of the door opening, echoed. Olivia, Leo, look what I've brought back for you. Seeing what Olivia was doing, he rushed over and grabbed her wrist. What are you doing? Ethan, Olivia laughed, tears streaming down her face. What are you still pretending about? Don't you know your son is dead? What are you talking about? He snapped, pinching Olivia's chin fiercely. How could Leo be dead? He just messaged me 2 days ago saying he was working overtime. Olivia struggled free of his grasp and pulled out the work injury certification from her pocket. Look closely. Your son died in the steaming facility at the specialty food processing plant. Because of the high-temperature steam, not even ashes were left. He heard Olivia's words as if struck by lightning. Then, staring at the paper, he furiously tore it to shreds. You'd make up lies like this just to avoid getting me out. I truly underestimated you. How did you become so malicious? How dare you curse our son? Olivia laughed, a sound escaping her lips, disregarding the flames in the fire pit. She grabbed the half-burned notebook with her bare hands. This is Leo's handwriting. This is Leo's favorite backpack. Anne's acceptance letter to top universities, which he gave up to work part-time and get you out. With each declaration, she threw an item at him. Enough. He suddenly grabbed Olivia's neck and pinned her against the wall. My son isn't dead. He's not dead at all. I think you've gone mad. Ethan immediately lifted Olivia and took her to the mental health facility. Seeing strapped into the restraint chair at the mental health facility, his tone held a hint of reluctance. Olivia, you just stay here and reflect. No matter what, you shouldn't curse our son. Ethan. Olivia struggled, screaming. Go ask at the specialty food processing plant. Everyone saw your son die that day. He died in the facility. Here we go again, he sighed, shaking his head. Doctor, please increase her medication. My wife's condition is more serious than I thought. Cheerful children's voices suddenly drifted from the hallway window. Olivia turned her head with difficulty and saw Stella holding Jay's hand. Standing outside the door, the little boy immediately ran to Ethan as soon as he saw him. Dad? That single word, Dad, stabbed Olivia's heart like a knife. She remembered Leo, on his 10th birthday, quietly asking from under the covers, Mom, when will Dad come back? I really want Dad to come home and hug me. Tears silently streamed down her face. The fatherly love her son had missed for 8 years had all been given to someone else's child. The doctor handed Ethan a tablet. Mr. Ethan, please sign to confirm. Ethan held Jay with one arm, signing his name smoothly with the other. As he left, he glanced back at Olivia, whose wrists were bleeding from the restraints. Stella will take me back to the underground casino to keep paying off my debts. When you come to your senses, I'll ask the boss to let me out to pick you up. Olivia silently closed her eyes, no longer watching them. Begin treatment. The doctor pressed the switch, the moment the current shot through Olivia's body. The last scene from the specialty food processing plant flashed before her eyes. Leo's scalded, crimson fingers clung desperately to the edge of the steaming pot, his lips moving as he called Dad. Increase the voltage, the doctor commanded indifferently. A stronger current surged through Olivia. She convulsed, biting through her lip. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, exactly like the foamy blood Leo had spit out in her memory. Patient showing resistance, the nurse noted. Olivia stared at the pale light on the ceiling and suddenly burst out laughing. How much that light resembled the exploding steam that day, all-encompassing. Nowhere to escape. One more shock. In the last moment before consciousness faded, Olivia seemed to see Leo standing in the light. Mom, it doesn't hurt. 3 days later, as Olivia lay disoriented from the electroshock treatment, Ethan finally appeared at the ward door. Olivia, he bent down to smooth her messy hair, pausing when his fingertips touched the blisters on her forehead from the electrodes. The doctor says you're better now, you can be discharged. Let's go to the specialty food processing plant to pick up Leo. He suddenly raised his voice, as if trying to convince someone. It'll be perfect for our family of 3 to celebrate 4th of July weekend together. We haven't spent a holiday together in 8 years. Olivia ignored him. As the nurse untied the restraints, Olivia's wrists were already festering and oozing pus. Ethan frowned at the wounds, then suddenly scooped Olivia up in his arms. Olivia, while you were undergoing treatment here, I was doing great at the underground casino. The boss there was so pleased. He completely waived my debt. Now I can stay with you and Leo forever. Olivia still said nothing, simply watching the vehicle's route to the specialty food processing plant. When they arrived, the factory workers saw them, and specialty dumplings clattered from their hands onto the floor. Mr. Frank, with red-rimmed eyes, turned his face away, and Mrs. Clara covered her mouth and ran off. What's wrong with them? Ethan asked, nervously clutching Olivia's hand. Why are they all looking at us like we're dead? Olivia silently led him to the innermost steaming facility. Caution tape wrapped around the rusty iron door like a spiderweb, and a faded "Hi, do enter" sign swayed in the wind. Do you dare to come in? Olivia asked hoarsely. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed, his dress shoes crunched over the dried blood on the ground. Of course I dare. The burst pipe remained as it had been that day, its inner wall stained with charred skin tissue. Your son is right here. Olivia pointed to the furnace. Enough. Ethan suddenly kicked over a nearby cart in a fit of rage. Those quack doctors clearly didn't cure you. The factory manager ran up, breathless. Olivia, that day, the workers found some of Leo's remaining ashes in the exploded furnace. He carefully handed Olivia the urn, then said regretfully, Please accept my condolences. At that moment, Ethan, as if insane, snatched the ashes from Olivia's hands. Olivia, I see you've grown quite cunning, getting an entire factory to put on a show for you. And you even found fake ashes. Aren't you just trying to spite me? With that, he directly scattered the ashes from his hands. Now I'll show you how I make this unlucky thing disappear. Let's see who else dares to curse my son, Leo. Just then, a siren sounded, growing louder as the police walked in. Who here is Leo's next of kin? We have a death certificate that needs to be signed. Seeing the officers, Ethan's legs gave out, and he slid to the ground. He stared at the uniform shoulder patch of the police officer, his pupils constricting violently as he stumbled backward, his dress shoes grinding over the scattered ashes on the ground. You're all liars, all of you. I was just giving my son a test. How could I possibly let him die? You're all deceiving me. To the side, Stella, in her 10-centimeter high heels, rushed into the facility. The No. 5 perfume scent instantly overpowered the smell of scorching Ethan. She reached out to help him up, but Ethan violently shook her off. He glared fiercely at everyone present. Do you know who I am? I'm the CEO of Goo. How much did Olivia pay you to put on this act? I'll pay double. Son, come out now. The police officer frowned and unfolded the forensic report. The deceased, Leo, 18 years old, died accidentally in the steaming facility on the first day of the 4th of July weekend. Shut up. Ethan suddenly lunged at the report, the paper shredding into snowflakes in his hands. My son messaged me just recently. He said he got into top universities. He was waiting for me to come home. His voice abruptly cut off because as he pulled out his cell phone, he accidentally dropped it from his pocket and the screensaver clearly showed a photo of Stella and Jay together. Ethan looked embarrassed as he picked up the cell phone from the ground. Then he walked over to Olivia, looking at her with red-rimmed eyes. Olivia, I know you're angry that I've been hiding my identity, but soft mothers spoil their sons. Raise boys with grit and girls with grace. I had to pretend to be poor to raise my son to be successful. Why don't you understand me? Olivia looked back at him, but not a single tear would fall, so her voice was as light as a wisp of smoke. Our son had to be raised with grit, to suffer hardships from a young age. While you lived a life of luxury with your adoptive sister's son, and you used the hard-earned money Leo made working part-time since he was 10 years old to buy chocolate for that bastard child. Ethan's facial muscles twitched. He reached out to pull Olivia closer, but she dodged him. What do you know? He suddenly became agitated, veins throbbing on his forehead. I was training Leo's will. The heir of the Goo family must die in the steaming facility. Is that it? Olivia interrupted him, pulling out the blood-soaked overtime slip from her pocket. Look closely. This is what your son was clutching even in death. Triple pay, just to earn enough to get you out sooner. Ethan's gaze darted away. He didn't dare to look at the slip. He turned to the police, his voice suddenly fawning. Officer, this is all a misunderstanding. My son definitely isn't dead. Could I trouble you to help me find him? My wife just got out of the mental health facility, and everyone at this factory has been bought off by her. She's mentally unstable. She must have hidden my son. Ethan. Olivia suddenly roared, making him flinch. How long will you keep deceiving yourself? Olivia advanced on him step by step, looking at the ashes clinging to his suit, the ashes of his own son, when was 10, to buy you a birthday gift. He spent an entire month moving bricks at a construction site. He personally took it to the underground casino, only for you to dismiss it with, "You dare bring such cheap trash to embarrass me." When he was 12, he went to wash dishes at a restaurant with a high fever, just because you said you wanted seafood and he wanted to earn more money. But you turned around and took Stella and Jay to the Caribbean. When he was 15, he was valedictorian of his middle school class. You claimed the underground casino wouldn't let you attend the parent-teacher conference, but that same day, you were at Jay's kindergarten parent-child sports day. Ethan's face grew paler and paler. He opened his mouth but couldn't make a sound. "The most laughable thing is," Olivia said, a pained smile on her face, tears finally falling. "Leo believed until his dying breath that you were truly being held by the underground casino, and he fought with all his might to get you back." Olivia bent down and picked up the urn he had scattered, gently blowing away the dust on it, just as she used to blow on Leo's scraped knees when he fell as a child. That day was the first day of the 4th of July weekend. Olivia suddenly smiled. "Leo said he wanted to make 300 more specialty dumplings to earn enough money to get you out. But the high-temperature steam furnace was broken, and Leo climbed in to repair it for triple pay. He was killed in the explosion inside. What you scattered were Leo's only ashes." Ethan suddenly began to retch, expelling vomit mixed with streaks of blood. His cell phone fell to the ground, accidentally triggering a recording. The entire facility echoed with Jay calling out, "Dad, your adoptive sister's son," Olivia said, caressing the urn. "He's 8 years old this year, isn't he? You abandoned us for them. So why bother pretending to be a loving father now?" Ethan slumped into the pile of ashes, his expensive suit soaked with sewage. The police officer stepped forward at that moment. "Mr. Ethan, we've found that you own shares in multiple underground casinos. The so-called detention was nothing but a performance you staged yourself." Stella suddenly shrieked, "No." Ethan was trying to shut up. Ethan spun around fiercely and slapped her across the face. "It's all you, you wretched woman. If it weren't for your terrible idea about me needing to train Leo, he wouldn't have died at all." Olivia watched the farce, suddenly finding it utterly absurd. Was this the man Olivia and Leo had loved with their lives? "Officer," Olivia said calmly, "I want to report Ethan for suspected child abuse, fraud, and intentional homicide." Hearing this, Ethan's legs gave out, and he collapsed to his knees. He crawled toward Olivia, trying to embrace her legs, but the police blocked him. "Olivia, my wife," he cried, snot and tears smearing his face. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Can we go home? I'll pick up Leo's ashes, every single bit, and I'll go back with you and live a good life home." Olivia looked around the steaming facility, thick with the smell of steam. "Our home was destroyed by your own hands 8 years ago." As turned to leave, she heard Ethan's hysterical shouts from behind. "Olivia, come back. I'm your husband." Chapter 8. Olivia didn't look back, only holding the urn in her arms tighter. "Leo," she whispered, "Mommy's taking you home." As the police officers escorted Ethan and Stella into the police car, Ethan was still struggling hysterically. "Do you know who I am? I'm the CEO of GU. I can have my team of lawyers sue you." "Shut up," the lead officer snapped, cutting him off. "Ethan, we are now arresting you on suspicion of child abuse, fraud, and intentional homicide. You have the right to remain silent." The siren faded into the distance. Olivia stood holding Leo's urn in the setting sun for a very long time. Later, Olivia walked to the old locust tree in Leo's favorite park. The morning dew soaked the tips of her shoes, just like the year Leo, lying on the ground to pick up a coin, had his pant legs soaked by the rain. Olivia dug into the damp soil with her fingers, and as her fingertips touched the twisted employee ID badge, she suddenly remembered Leo's first day working at the specialty food processing plant. He had stood on tiptoe to hang the employee ID badge by his bed, saying that once he saved enough money to get Dad back, the three of them would take a family portrait together. "My son." Olivia pressed the employee ID badge to her lips, the metallic rust mixing with the salty taste of her tears. Back home, she lay semi-conscious for 3 days, clinging to Leo's ashes, still in her clothes. 3 days later, news reports were ubiquitous. Gu Chairman Gu on suspicion of multiple underground dark exposed. Gus involvement in illicit revealed. Adoptive Stella is an accomplice. Both to face legal. Olivia calmly turned off the television and began packing her luggage again. Leo's belongings were few. Only a few faded school uniforms, a metal pencil case, and the notebook filled with the rescue plan. The bus back to her hometown swayed, the urn in Olivia's arms growing warm from the sun. The elderly woman next to her, seeing Olivia holding the urn, insisted on giving her a boiled egg. "Child, don't be too sad. Your son will be hurting to see you like this from heaven. Take an egg for the road." Olivia thanked her and accepted it, remembering when Leo was 5, how he would secretly push the egg yolk to her, saying he was tired of eating eggs, just to save one for her. On the hillside in Olivia's hometown, the wild roses were in full bloom. Olivia chose the luscious cherry blossom tree to bury the urn beneath. When was 3, he had pointed at cherry blossoms on TV and asked Mom, "Can you take me to see them someday?" Sadly, Olivia had never been able to take him to see cherry blossoms, not even once. Before he was gone, tears fell freely from Olivia's eyes, and her voice trembled. "Leo," she whispered, covering with earth, "this spot faces south, so it's warm in winter, and wants to tell you, right next to here is an elementary school. You'll hear the younger kids studying every day. You always loved studying, so now you can listen to them every single day." The day the tombstone was erected, Olivia bought a box of the most expensive chocolates and placed it before the grave. The packaging had the gourmet chocolate shop's logo, the very shop Leo had looked at longingly for 8 years. "Try it," Olivia said, unwrapping the gold foil. This time, Mom bought the biggest piece. "You don't have to save money for Mom anymore. From now on, tell Mom anything you want to eat, and Mom will get it for you. What you couldn't bear to eat before, what you couldn't get, you'll have it all now." The spring breeze blew, and a few cherry blossom petals drifted onto the tombstone. Olivia leaned against the cool stone, as if transported back to Leo's childhood, to the times he would lie on her lap listening to stories. "Mommy will tell you a new one." Olivia opened a fairy tale book she had found at the bottom of a box in her hometown. Tucked between its pages was a family portrait Leo had drawn in 1st grade. In the drawing, his father was just a vague outline. The school bell rang in the distance, and the sound of children laughing and playing grew closer. Olivia gently traced Leo's smiling face on the tombstone. In a daze, she seemed to hear a clear voice calling, "Mommy, look, I got a perfect score." The setting sun stretched their shadows long, just like the evenings Olivia and Leo had walked home from the specialty food processing plant, supporting each other. The nights in prison were longer than Ethan had imagined. In the solitary confinement cell, the damp, mildewy smell mixed with the scent of disinfectant often woke him up in the middle of the night. Every time he closed his eyes, he would see Leo, scalded beyond recognition, and's eyes, so much like his own, slowly lost their spark in the high-temperature steam. "Leo, Daddy was wrong." He curled up on the hard bunk, whimpering like a child. Memories flooded back like a tide. The warmth of Leo stumbling and falling into his arms the first time he learned to walk. The night Leo had a fever when he was 5. Ethan had indeed carried the child 3 blocks to the hospital, but that was only because Stella had said she wanted to see him. "I'm an animal." What tormented him most was remembering Olivia kneeling outside the underground casino, pleading for him. At that time, he was in the VIP room, sipping red wine, watching her through the security monitors being pushed to the ground repeatedly by guards, only to get back up each time. "Mr. Ethan, your wife is here again. Tell her to get lost. She's bad luck." Ethan suddenly began to tremble violently. "Olivia," he called out hoarsely, "we used to be so good together." Back then, Olivia was still a college student with a ponytail, helping him pick up dropped books in the library. He remembered her fingers, long and slender, still stained with paint from her art. "You promised to be with me forever." "I was the first to break that promise." He recalled their wedding day. Olivia wearing a simple white dress because he had said buying a wedding gown was a waste. He remembered her enduring morning sickness during pregnancy yet still going to work, just to buy him the watch he had casually praised. Yet, he was a CEO, with plenty of money, and he had been deceiving his wife and son all this time for those ridiculous tests. What was most heart-wrenching was recalling every time he was paroled home from the underground casino. Olivia and Leo would always have the house spotless, and his favorite dishes would always be on the dining table. Leo would nervously present his perfect score exam papers, while Olivia would quietly place all the meat onto his bowl. You were so good to me. Ethan buried his face in the filthy pillow. How could I do this to you two? He suddenly remembered the last time he saw Leo. That day, the child had secretly gone to the underground casino to bring him specialty dumplings. Ethan, feeling ashamed, had the security guards escort the child out. Now, he vividly recalled that when Leo was pushed to the ground, he was still clutching the lunchbox containing the specialty dumplings. My son brought me my last meal. Ethan frantically banged his head against the wall. I didn't even let him in the door. Blood streamed down his forehead, mixing with hot tears. He finally understood that no one in this world would ever love him the way Olivia and Leo had. No one would remember all his preferences, no one would live frugally for him, and no one would ever be willing to give their life for him. Olivia, Leo. He knelt on the cold concrete floor, repenting like a devout believer. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong, but in the empty cell, no one would ever gently reply, "It's all right. Just come home." The prison guard later wrote in the report, "The inmate has shown severe self-destructive tendencies, frequently banging his head against the walls." Then, one rainy night, Ethan suddenly grew calm. He bit his index finger and wrote a shaky blood-stained note on the toilet paper. Olivia, I dreamed Leo was smiling at me in his school uniform, just like when he was little. He said, "Daddy, I hurt so much. I know I was terribly wrong. I'm leaving all my clean assets to you. Though I know it won't make up for anything. If there's a next life, I hope you never meet a scumbag like me." The blood smeared here, blurring the remaining words. The next day, during recreation time, the prison guard discovered he had pierced his carotid artery with a sharpened plastic toothbrush handle. Blood splattered on the wall, vaguely forming the outline of a boy, just like the family portrait Leo loved to draw when he was little. Meanwhile, in the women's correctional facility laundry room, Stella was mechanically folding prison uniforms. Her once meticulously cared-for hands were now covered in chilblains. Number 10,357. The prison guard hit the bars. "Your son is causing trouble at the suburban foster home again." Stella numbly nodded, then suddenly burst into a hysterical laugh. "Serves him right. Just like his gambling addict biological father." No one knew whether she was cursing Jay's biological father or the deceased Ethan. Meanwhile, at the suburban foster home, the staff members frustratedly surveyed the mess on the floor. "I want gourmet chocolate." Jay overturned his meal tray onto the floor. "My dad is a CEO. You nobodies." The caregivers exchanged helpless glances. The spoiled child didn't yet know that the dad he spoke of had become a corpse in the morgue. The wind swept through the cherry blossom trees in the cemetery. Olivia stood in front of Leo's grave, gazing at the envelope the lawyer had brought. Inside, besides the stock transfer document, was that blood-stained toilet paper. She didn't read it. She just placed it on the candle. As the flames leaped up, she vaguely saw Leo smiling at her in the flickering light. "Mom," in her mind's eye, the young boy's voice was clear and bright, "I want to eat the specialty dumplings you made." Olivia wiped away her tears and took out the still-warm specialty dumplings from the basket, gently placing them in front of the tombstone. "Eat up, this time." Mom put in double the red beans.